Thank you. Could you state your name for the record?
Talesha Moore.
And, excuse me, Ms. Moore, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. But first, I want to ask you, do you know someone by the name of Cordell Wright?
I do.
And how do you know Mr. Wright?
He is the father of my nephew, my 17-year-old nephew.
So, your sister's son?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And is that how you met Mr. Wright?
Yeah.
Or your sister?
Yes.
Okay. And in what context is your relationship with Mr. Wright? How did you know him? Did he ever do anything for you? Things like that?
He fixed my mother's car. He worked on her car.
Okay. And what kind of car does your mother drive?
A red Jaguar.
And what's your mom's name?
Jacqueline Campbell.
And going back to January of 2024, where were you living at the time? Not your specific address, just the city.
Ypsilanti.
And who else lived with you in Ypsilanti?
My mom and my son.
Okay. And would Mr. Wright ever come out to Ypsilanti to fix your mom's car, her Jaguar?
Yes.
How often did he do that?
Like a couple times, at least 2 times.
And and was that around January of 2024?
That was the last time.
In January was the last
Yes.
time. And when he would go out there, would he bring anyone with him?
This last time he did.
What about
For the
prior?
last 2 times. So before January 9th. And then someone else came, and then on January 9th, they both came.
Okay. And the person that he brought with him, do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing he was wearing?
Well, I can only see the top of his head right now.
Are you 100% sure that it's that person? Could we have everyone remove their masks, Judge, just for a brief moment?
If everyone in the courtroom to remove their mask, if they have one on, please.
Ms. Moore, do you see the person that Mr. Wright brought with him?
I do.
And could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing he's wearing?
A green one-piece thing.
For the record, the witness has identified Jarvis Butts, the defendant in this matter.
So reflected.
Thank you. And you said Mr. Butts came out how many times with Cordell?
At least 2. So this last time in January and the time before that.
Okay, and the time before that, who was anyone else with the 2 of them?
No,
And what were they doing the time before January 9th?
working on the car. I can't remember. There was a couple of things they had to fix on it. And they came out and did it in the driveway. And
Sorry.
I was just gonna say the last time, we got the car towed to the shop and they drove it back up.
Okay. And so in between the most recent time before January 9th, the Jaguar, correct me if I'm wrong, was towed to Detroit?
Correct.
Okay. And then on January 9th, did you see that red Jaguar again?
Yeah,
Okay. Who brought that Jaguar out to Ypsilanti?
Cordell and Jarvis.
Okay. And was anyone else with Cordell and Jarvis?
Yes.
Who is that person?
Naziah.
And I want to clarify, at the time on the 9th, when Cordell, Jarvis, and Naziah came, did you know that that was Naziah Harris?
No,
Do you know that now?
I do know now.
And is that based on information you've learned or seen in the news and things like that?
Well, it was based on when the detectives came to the house to question us. That's when I found out who she was.
But at the time on the 9th, you didn't know? Is that enough?
No, yes or no, I did not know.
Now, let's talk about when they came out on the 9th, January 2024. What was that interaction? How long did it last? Can you kind of take me through start to finish their visit and delivering the car?
So they came, they delivered the car, they were talking to my mom about what was wrong, gave her the invoice. It was just like a regular day when they came in, they sat on the couch for a few minutes. Naziah was sitting in the chair by the TV. We spoke very brief. Asked her if she wanted something to drink. She didn't. My 6-year-old son ran up to her, the dog, it was just very mellow. They sat there, we talked about the car and stuff, we talked about my nephew. Cordell was trying to wait till, my nephew got out of school, but because he was on tether, they had to leave, so they didn't get to stay long enough for my nephew to come.
And your nephew would be Cordell's son.
Cordell's not yet, correct.
Did you talk to Mr. Butts about Messiah? Did he introduce her or anything like that?
We just asked, hey, everybody spoke, he said this is his niece, and that was pretty much the basis of it. I cannot remember if he said her name or not, but he did introduce her as his niece.
And so, just to be clear, not sure about the name, but he said this is his niece about Messiah.
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
That's a yes, I'm sorry.
And then after that conversation, well, let me ask you, during that time when they were there, did you notice anything that was unsettling or concerning about Messiah?
No,
It was just a normal interaction.
yes,
After that interaction was over, did the three of them, Cordell, Jarvis, and Messiah, leave your house?
yes,
Okay. And as far as you know, they were headed back to New York, right?
correct.
When they left, whose car were they leaving in?
Cordell's truck,
And all three of them were in the same car?
yes,
And you said that they were delivering the Jaguar to your mom or to your house, right?
yes,
Did you see them pull up? Do you know what the driving and seating arrangements was?
I do not.
I have nothing further to say.
Okay, Ross?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So you're technically not related to Cordell, right?
Correct,
That's just the uncle I'm sorry, he is the
The
father of
father.
your nephew. Okay, how would you say your relationship is with Mr. Wright?
it's cool, like, no issues.
You got along with him well?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes,
and you know Cordell worked as a mechanic?
correct.
Okay, and how long has he worked on your vehicle? Was this something new, or had he worked on your vehicle previously?
I think he might have changed the oil on one of my cars a couple years back, but not that frequently.
And you knew he had did you know he had a shop that he worked out of?
Yes,
Okay, had you been to the shop?
yes,
Okay. And you said that there was a time prior to January 9th that he came up and worked on the car, correct?
correct.
And you said that my client was with him at that time.
Correct.
Do you recall when that was?
It had to be in the summer. I cannot recall the exact date.
But it was summer of 2023?
Yes,
Okay. And that was the first time you had seen Jarvis Butts?
yes,
Did you say anything to him that day?
yes,
The
we
first
talked,
time?
yes, we talked about me being a member of Zeta and that he had a cousin or somebody that was a Zeta. We all went to O'Reilly's to get some parts or something for the car.
Okay.
Stopped and got something to eat, came back, but it was very mellow, like,
So that summer of 2023, you had a fairly decent conversation with him, correct?
correct,
And it lasted for a period of time, correct?
correct,
So on January 9th, when you saw him, you knew who he was.
correct,
You had recognized him because you had spent time with him, correct?
correct,
Okay. So you had the car, and you knew that he was partnered with Cordell at the shop, correct?
correct.
Okay. So on January 9th, approximately when did you have the car towed down to his shop?
I think we had it told maybe like the 4th or the 5th.
So it was there from the 4th, okay? And it was the 9th that they brought it back?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know approximately what time the car was brought back?
Had to be before 3:30 PM.
It was
Oh, no, it had to be before 5:30, because my sister got off work at 5:30, so. Mid-afternoon,
but you're not sure of the exact time.
I'm not sure the exact time.
Was it light or dark outside?
It was still like out.
Okay. And they came up, they pulled the Jaguar in first, the driveway.
Correct,
And then Cordell's car was behind it.
I believe so.
Okay, when they pulled up, did you see them exit the vehicles?
No,
Okay, so you don't know who was driving?
I don't.
Okay, so at that point, they came into the house, correct?
Correct,
And did they all walk in together? Or
Yes.
did- Okay, so Cordell came in, followed by Jarvis, correct?
I can't tell you the exact, I don't know if Nazir walked in first or Jarvis walked in first.
Okay, and this young lady, and to be fair, you didn't know who she was.
Not at all.
Do you recall what she was wearing when she came?
I think she had on a jacket, but I can't really,
Don't recall?
no,
Okay. Do you recall what any of them had on that day?
not really.
Okay. So, do you recall, without going into your house, was it dark, lights in your house, were the lights on?
The lights were on.
Okay, and you have a fairly large living room?
Yeah,
Okay, so when they came in, you said that Desire sat next to the television.
so yeah, like when you're coming in, there's like a red cabinet type thing, the TV sits on top of it, and then there's a chair, right, like I don't know, a chair, sitting right next to it, and that's where she was.
Okay. And when she came in, did she introduce herself?
She did not.
Okay, so she came in, sat down, right?
We offered her to speak, like, came in, Cordell said hello, he was doing most of the talking. Jarvis said hello, said this is my niece. Then it was like, y'all have a seat.
Okay,
Cordell sat on the couch, there's a couch this way, and then a long couch this way.
but, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, I believe that they were both on this couch, Nazir was in the chair, and me and my mom were on the longer couch.
So your mom was there?
Yeah.
Right. All right, and you all were conversing, correct?
Correct,
And it's fair to say that you weren't conversing with Nazia, correct?
no,
You were conversing with Jarvis, I'm sorry, you were conversing with Cordell,
Cordell and Jarvis about the car and the invoice that they brought.
all right? And you said at some point, your son came up and was talking with Nazia?
Correct,
Okay. And how long did this conversation last?
like all of our conversations.
Right, how long were they there?
Probably between like 30-45 minutes,
Okay.
maybe an hour.
And while they were there, you didn't notice anything, and I think you already mentioned this, you didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
Did you see Jarvis Butts conversing with Desire Harris?
No,
So they didn't have any conversation?
no,
Okay. And you didn't notice anything awkward or out of the ordinary between the two?
correct. I didn't notice it.
So after about an hour, they left.
Correct.
Was it light or dark?
It was still fairly light.
All right. And they got into Cordell's car, correct?
Correct.
You don't remember the scene, I think you've already said
No, I did
that.
not.
But was Cordell driving?
Correct.
Okay. So that day, you didn't think anything out of the ordinary happened, correct?
Correct.
And at some point, you were contacted, correct?
Correct.
When were you contacted?
Well, we were contacted, by Cordell the next day because when we paid the invoice, it was $70 short. So we had to get Jarvis's cash out to send the rest of the money. So that was the last part of the conversation. And then the detectives came, I want to say the end of March,
So the end of March, so,
I believe. I don't know the exact day, but it was at least a month or two later.
and it was when the detectives came, is when you found out that the person that was in your house was Messiah Harris, correct?
Correct.
All right. And did they tell you that this person was Messiah Harris?
They asked me if I knew who she was, and they asked me if I knew who Cordell was. They showed me a picture of Mr. Butts. They asked me if I knew who all these people were. And they asked me if I knew her name, and I did not know her name at that time.
Okay. And they told you her name?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay. And at any point, did you look up why they were there or look up any information about this case
Yeah, after they left.
after they left?
Mhm.
Okay, and what did you look up?
Objection relevance.
I just want to see where her information came from.
As long as the results of what she looked up.
I want to see, the information that she had, that go into her testimony.
Sure.
There's obviously, there's podcasts out that are a bit unfavorable.
It's not obvious,
Well,
I don't know.
okay, you don't know. Okay. What did you look at?
I looked up Mr. Butts' oldest record,
Okay,
but I tried to type in his name, I typed in Cordell's name, tried to see if anything came up. At that time, there wasn't anything posted, but I didn't find much, other than his record.
okay. Just one. No further questions.
Can you redirect?
Yeah, very good. Ms. Moore, Mr. Reagan's was just asking you about information that you looked up and things like that. When the police were at your house, though, the detectives were at your house. First, do you know if those were Detroit police officers?
Yes, Detroit Police
Detectives, okay. And you said that they showed you a picture of, in court, you said Nizaya, right?
Say one more time.
They showed you a picture of Nizaya at that time, correct?
Correct.
Did you identify that picture when the police were there as Nizaya Harris? Did you say her name?
No, I said that's the mechanic's niece.
So just to be clear, you identified her as the girl that was at your house.
Correct.
With the defendant, Jarvis Butts.
Correct.
Oh. And that was before you had looked up any information.
Correct, because I didn't know anything until the detectives came to the house.
And while Nizaya and Jarvis and Cordell were at your house, you said Nizaya was sitting next to the TV? Is that-
Yes.
And did Nizaya, during that 30 minutes to an hour, ever get up and leave, use the restroom or anything like that?
No.
And you mentioned earlier that Cordell was on a tether and that's the reason he had to leave, right?
Correct.
Do you know what Cordell's tether hours were at that time? Like what time he had to be back home by?
I don't know.
How far of a drive is it from Detroit to Ypsilanti?
Probably about 40 minutes,
And what was the reason that Cordell had to leave again?
because he said he had to be back in the house for his tether.
Okay, so did it seem like he was in a little bit of a rush to get back, or he was cutting it close maybe with that drive 40 minutes?
No, I think he had whatever he needed to do, and he just wanted to make sure he was in the city on time.
But is it fair to say that he would have left somewhat closer to his cutoff time? If that's the reason he left, or that he said.
No,
I-
object. I think that calls for speculation on her part.
I was gonna say, I don't know, one second.
Do you want to respond?
If she knows, I think it's a close call.
If you know the answer.
I don't know, I can't say.
I have another further question.
Okay, you already got that. Watch it.